I'd like to call to order the regular evening council meeting for Monday, June 5th, 2023. This meeting is being recorded live and is streaming on the District of Summerland YouTube channel. All representations to council, written or verbal, will form part of the public record and be available to the public for viewing electronically or as a written record. Corporate officer, any late items? No late items. If I could get an approval of the agenda. Councillor Van Elfen, Councillor Betts, all in favor? And that carries. Consent agenda. Would anybody like to remove anything from the consent agenda? Councillor Barkwell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to remove the development services activities report.
Okay, that's item 4.3, and that will go down to item 13. Anything else? Or get approval of the consent agenda? Councillor Betts, second Councillor Patton, all in favor? That carries. Moving on to my mayor's report. On May 19th, Kelowna Mayor Tom Dias hosted 7 other Okanagan mayors at Kelowna City Hall for a meeting to discuss issues of common interest and to explore areas where we could be more effective working together as a region. It was decided to initially focus on 4 issues: infrastructure funding, housing, homelessness, and regional transportation. The mayors will continue to meet periodically with the goal of producing an advocacy paper on each topic for each of our councils to review and approve. The following week, actually a few days later after that, most of us same mayors and a number of councillors from throughout the region boarded the same plane to Toronto to attend the annual convention of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, which ran from May 24th to 28th. Councillor Barkwell and I were there to represent Summerland. We attended a range of workshops from inter-community transit to developing strategies for local climate resilience. And much of the talk was about the need for a new fiscal framework for municipalities. The current framework, with its heavy reliance on property taxes, hasn't changed much since the 19th century. And then at that time, local government's role was pretty much specifically to service private property. The model wasn't designed to pay for emerging responsibilities like delivering recreation and social services, and it certainly wasn't designed to drive local solutions to national and provincial challenges like housing, homelessness, healthcare, or addressing core infrastructure. As one speaker at the convention put it, the federal government has the money, the provincial governments have the power, and local governments have the problems. FCM delegates passed a resolution declaring the need for a modernized fiscal framework for municipalities that provides new sources of municipal revenue that take into account national population and economic growth, which property taxes generally do not. The FCM board of directors was elected with a mandate to negotiate a new framework. After Toronto, I went up to Ottawa for meetings with several members of parliament and government advisors to advocate for our federal grant applications for both the proposed rec center and the food hub. I would like to thank our member of parliament, Dan Albus, as well as Richard Cannings, the MP for South Okanagan West Kootenay, for their assistance in setting up these meetings. Also, thank you to MP Albus for treating me to lunch at the parliamentary restaurant and for giving me a most interesting behind-the-scenes tour of the House of Commons. I returned home to attend the RDS meetings on Thursday, this past Thursday, where the board received a review of the regional district's emergency management capabilities. It was agreed to establish a working group to review the recommendations in detail and to report back to the board. The board also reviewed a new draft OCP for Rural Area E, which includes Naramata. The draft OCP includes growth containment boundaries to indicate where future types of growth is to be directed. Previously, Naramata was designated as a rural growth area in the regional growth strategy, but it never had any mapping boundaries. Thursday was also the first day of our 3-month trial, allowing the consumption of alcohol at 3 of our local beaches. Councillor Betts, Barkwell, and Peak joined me that evening at Peach Orchard Beach for a social gathering to mark the occasion organized by Bottleneck Drive. Finally, I hope everyone was able to get out and enjoy Action Fest. We lucked out with some amazing weather, and I'm sure the size of Summerland at least doubled over the weekend. On Friday evening, I had the honor of joining Pat Bell and other members of the Action Fest board on the bandshell stage for the official opening. This was the 33rd year that Pat had declared the festival officially open. By my calculation, that means I am the 8th mayor who joined him in doing so. I'm not sure if that speaks more to the longevity of the chair of the Action Fest board or to the average shelf life of a Summerland mayor. I'll go with the former. Anyway, what makes Action Fest such a fun and vibrant weekend is that so many different people are able to get involved and participate in so many different ways. There are a lot of people who need to be thanked and recognized, including Pat and the Action Fest board and volunteers, the musicians and food trucks and merchants and security people, the kinsmen for running the beverage garden, the people who brought in all the family-friendly activities, the organizers of the slow pitch, and of course the players and officials, all the district staff involved in setting up for the event, and our Department of Community Services staff and volunteers for organizing another great Giant's Head run, and the 463 people who ran and walked. I ran and walked, but other people ran the whole thing. And I'm sure there's many others who I've missed. But last but not least, I should mention the sponsors of all the events. If it wasn't for their ongoing support, none of this would have been possible. And that's my report. CIO Stat, your report, please.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to pause and recognize the hard work of staff throughout the organization who helped support the Action Fest, from preparing the grass and facilities at Memorial Park to organizing the Giant's Head Run, to beautifying our downtown core to prepare for our visitors. It was an incredible weekend. The old pier is more stubborn than anticipated, as the deck of the pier is fastened to the failing piles with many more spikes than would be normally used for pier design. We had hoped to pull the deck off quickly to eliminate public use of the pier given its failing condition, but now we'll be removing the deck and the piles at the same time, targeting July when the water temperatures are warm enough to allow us to move any mussels in the vicinity before we begin our work. Will be tedious work because we are not permitted to use power saws, which can produce shavings and dust from the treated wood that could harm the aquatic environment. Because much of the deck remains in place, we have added further fencing and signage to eliminate public use given its unsafe condition. I'd like to thank Council for supporting a compressed work week trial for Municipal Hall. Starting July 2nd, 2023, the district will extend our service hours for customers by compressing our full-time hours into a 4-day period from Tuesday to Friday for Municipal Hall staff. Counter services will be provided Tuesday through Friday, but will run later, now extending each day to 5 p.m. Additionally, the opening time will be earlier, beginning at 8:15 a.m. each morning. Service will continue over our lunch hour period, as is currently the case, and the trial will be 18 months, and we will report back to Council after that time. Earlier this year, surveys were conducted by Counter staff, which indicated that most customers desire extended hours to accommodate their business and personal schedules. So that we hope this trial is going to address that feedback. And to ensure operational efficiency, some services will remain on a regular schedule. Building inspections will continue 5 days per week, and corporate services will operate on a 5-day schedule as well, but on an appointment-only basis on Mondays when the counter services are not operational. Bylaw staff will continue to modify their schedule according to the season, right now with 7-day coverage. Let's hope the trial will support our customer through extended hours and also have the added benefit of positioning us as a preferred employer in the region to attract and retain staff, especially those hard to recruit positions. The results of the trial, as I say, will come back to council in the fall. Finally, because Summerland is a major sponsor of the powwow between the lakes, we are receiving a number of weekend passes in our sponsorship package. Thank you to council for your support and raffling those off to members of the community. Folks can enter a draw for a chance to win 2 weekend passes. It's a $40 value, and we have 10 sets of those tickets to give away to lucky winners. We had many people enter the draw during Action Fest, but for those who could not be there, just visit the Summerland Aquatic and Fitness Center to fill out your entry or email recreation@summerland.ca to be entered. And winners will be drawn and announced on Friday, June 16th. With that, I conclude my report.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the CEO or for myself? Councillor Barkwell?
Excuse me. Yeah, I know you told me before, I can't remember. What was the date of our first Tuesday meeting? June or July 18th?
It's July 18th is the first Tuesday meeting of council.
Okay. Okay, so we'll move on to the public comment opportunity. Don't see any. No. On to development reports. The zoning bylaw amendment for 8307 Jones Flat Road. Mr. Delavan.
Thank you. Thank you, Worship. Let's wait for the slides to come on the screen there. Okay. The district's in receipt of a rezoning application at 8307 Jones Flat Road to allow for the construction of a new industrial bay building with a total of 6 bays that are being proposed. This subject property is located within the district's Logie Road industrial area and is currently designated as light industrial in the district's OCP. The subject property is actually the last remaining lot within that Logie Road industrial area that is currently zoned CR1, our country residential zone, as opposed to all the other lots are currently zoned industrial. The historical use of the property is a single family residential dwelling, and the applicant is proposing to demolish that dwelling to allow for this 6-bay industrial building to be located on the site. So the applicant has provided us a detailed site plan and elevation drawings to accommodate the rezoning request. And up on the screen here is the proposed site plan. These plans have been updated a few times following the review of our internal comments initially from our works department as well as our planning staff, and then as well following the review of our advisory planning commission before they being brought forward to council tonight. Proposed is a light industrial complex, a total of 10,688 square feet in size. And you can see from the site plan, you can't really see it too well on this, but it's better visually on your package. There's 2 proposed landscape buffers, one on the north boundary, and then one on the east boundary. Both are provided in accordance with the district's zoning bylaw, which is requiring that landscape buffering for either a residential zone property, which is located to the east, or agricultural zone property, which is in the ALR, which is located to the north. The subject property and actually the entirety of Logie Road industrial area is located outside the district's sanitary sewer servicing. So proposed is to service this building is a septic system located east of the building, and it's indicated on the site plan. Again, can't really see it too well, but it is shown on the plan here. In terms of elevation drawings, so you can kind of see there's 4 elevations provided. The overhead doors of the 6-bay buildings are elevated facing north towards Jones Flat Road. And as well, there is proposed to be an employee housing caretaker suite located on the rooftop. You can kind of see the elevation of that additional caretaker suite on the east side of the building. And then primarily located on above that bay that's located furthest to the east. You can see here the proposed floor plans and the breakdown with the 6 bays. These bays are proposed to be stratified. Also shown is the residential unit for the employee housing caretaker suite, which is a allowed use within our zoning bylaw for M1. And the dimensions there, as well as the exiting to get to that level from that 6th bay. And as well, I do want to mention here, the applicant is proposing that they construct this building for their own business needs. So I think 3 of these 6 bays are proposed to be utilized for the relocation of the business that is proposed to be located to the property. So the specific zoning amendment bylaw request is to rezone the subject property from CR1 country residential to M1 light industrial with the inclusion of 2 site-specific variances. The first is to consider the front yard to be the yard that is fronting Jones Flat Road. Normally interpreting our district zoning bylaw, we take the narrower of the 2 road frontages that are fronting a road on a parcel on a corner lot. So in this case, it would be Industrial Avenue, but the applicant is requesting Jones Flat Road. As well, the second site-specific request is to allow for a new permitted use as part of this zoning just for this property, being motorcycle sales and rentals. And there's a definition there provided on the screen. It's also included in the proposed amendment bylaw, is to basically allow for the sales and rentals of motorcycles. And that's to accommodate the proposed business of Renedian Adventures to be located out of the space. So within the district's official community plan, as mentioned, this area is located in the Logie Road industrial area. This area is targeted for the attraction and development of new industrial infill for the community. This area is also outside of the ALR. It is surrounded by the ALR. You can with the agricultural land that is surrounding there. So it's kind of a pocket industrial area within the district of Summerland. Relevant policies of the OCP include to attract industrial-based buildings or businesses, that are consistent with Summerland's vision and goals. To develop a strong and diversified and sustainable economy that will provide expanded opportunities for employment, community growth, and foster community pride. To work to minimize land use conflicts between industries and other adjacent land uses. And now further to that, to further meet that section to minimize land uses, was to require screening and buffering to enhance the appearance of industrial areas while helping to mitigate conflicts with adjacent non-industrial land uses. And also finally, to encourage in areas designated as light industrial, which this property is, to provide business centers that incorporate a mix of research, light manufacturing, and associated business office uses. With regards to the district zoning bylaw, staff notes that the M1 zoning currently allows for automotive equipment repair shop, which is a permitted use within the M1 zoning. As mentioned, the request is to add motorcycle sales and rentals as a permitted use, in addition to the automotive and equipment repair shop, and a number of other uses like craft brewery and general industrial uses and contracting. And as well to consider Jones Flat Road as the front yard, and specifically why Jones Flat Road is being requested as a front yard actually helps to address a number of concerns with siting the building on the property that have been identified by the applicant. Specifically, it would allow for a 0 meter rear yard setback when a property is bordering another industrial zone property. So if we consider Jones Flat Road to be the front yard, the rear yard is the opposite line from the front yard, and it can go to a 0 lot line setback because there's another industrial zone property to the south. And that's where you see from the site plan, the building is fairly close to the, I'm just going to scroll back to it, to the rear property line from Jones Flat Road as well. This building, the way it's currently sited, would require a front yard setback to Industrial Avenue, as well as a rear yard setback from the opposite boundary to the residential property to the east. And so for that reason, the applicant is requesting that this site-specific request be considered to avoid the need to come back for variances in the future. This application was circulated internally. The proposed new building will trigger road upgrades to the center line of the road for both Industrial Avenue as well as Jones Flat Road. The building will also require fire suppression sprinkling in accordance with our fire suppression limit area bylaw. And as well, there's an existing water service that will need to be upgraded to service the building. External comments we received included the ALC, which had no objections to the proposal. The Ministry of Agriculture did provide us some detailed concerns with the proposal, specifically and mainly due to the landscape buffers provided. They were recommending a 15-meter buffer as well as an 8-meter vegetative buffer. That's in accordance to their guide to edge planning. But the staff notes that these requirements would be over and above the district's current zoning bylaw requirements for landscape bufferings between industrial and residential properties and also agricultural properties. MOTI has also provided preliminary approval for the zoning bylaw. The Advisory Planning Commission met on April 28th to discuss this application, provided a number of concerns and comments. The previous proposal that was presented to APC also included a third site-specific request to increase the height to 14 meters. And there was a lot of discussion in APC about that height variance request, specifically with the impact of a 14-meter high building would be on the adjacent neighborhood and also the residential and agricultural properties. There was also some comments from APC members that really this building could be designed to be within that 12-meter maximum of the M1 zoning. So it wasn't that they felt it wasn't really necessary to require that 14-meter height. There was also concerns with the application of automobile sales use. So previously, the request was more generic to the property of just allowing automobile sales and rentals instead of it being specific to motorcycle specifically. And there was concerns of the amount of parking that was going to be proposed on the building and whether there'd be enough for that, as well as the type of car lot type of use that the APC had concerns with applying to this property. And so for that reason, the resolution provided by the APC is provided there below that they do support the zoning bylaw amendment, but with the following conditions: to remove the 14-meter maximum height variance request, as well as to remove the automobile sales use request, but still allow for motorcycle sales and rentals use only, which the applicant then did vary their plan to accommodate those two conditions. So in terms of discussion, first considering the application of the M1 light industrial zoning, staff notes that this property is located within the Logie Road industrial area, which is targeted within our OCP for new light industrial infill and development. Clean bay, industrial bay buildings are encouraged in the OCP for this subject property, especially if there are any businesses that might be moving in that would be a complementary to the agriculture, like a value-added business for agriculture. This rezoning will allow for the support of a local business to grow within the community, stay within the community, as well as have additional remaining bays available for other businesses within the community that could expand into and grow into from their existing business situations. This is rezoning as well will be a continuation of the existing zoning along Industrial Avenue, and there's a picture there shown for council's benefit. Going up Industrial Avenue, you can see that there's industrial buildings to the south, but also on the west side of the road, and would be a continuation of the historical zoning along that road. And then finally, staff notes that the landscaping buffers provided are in conformance with the district's zoning bylaw and should help to mitigate the impacts from industrial uses on the neighboring agricultural land to the north and the residential properties to the east. Specifically to the site-specific requests, we note that the applicant's existing business needs are for to allow for a motorcycle sales and rental use application. And so this site-specific request is needed for them to expand onto this property, and therefore is a reasonable request. As well, we don't really see this as a fairly large departure from the current industrial uses located within the M1 zoning, such as automobile repair or contractor services. And staff also notes the applicant has willingly changed their request from the APC's advice due to the concerns of the automobile sales application to the property. And for the front property line, the request, if Industrial Ave was considered the front yard, a number of variances would be required to site the building as proposed on the site, including rear yard and front yard. The building is also orientated Jones Flat Road with its driveway access, as well as the overhead doors of the building itself, which kind of indicates to the general public that Jones Flat Road is the fronting yard and the front yard for the building. And then finally, the address of the property is also in a Jones Flat Road address, which will help with emergency personnel accessing the site. So to summarize, a construction of a new industrial bay building that can accommodate up to 6 light industrial businesses on a lot that is designated as industrial in the district's OCP is encouraged by staff to support economic development opportunities within the district. There's a lack of this type of clean bay building industrial development available for rent or lease that could allow for small local businesses to expand and diversify their operations. The development may also attract new businesses to relocate to Summerland, given higher industrial rental rates from neighboring communities currently found throughout the Okanagan, as well as the property's proximity to Highway 97. For these reasons, as well as those other that have been previously stated in the previous slides, we are recommending that staff proceed with this rezoning. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Council questions. Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. How many parking stalls per unit?
Sorry, through the chair to Councillor Van Elfen, that really depends on the proposed uses that will be going in. So each use within the industrial area has its own parking calculation. It can range from 2 stalls per, I think, 100 square meters, or it could be less. It could be 1 stall per 100 square meters. It depends on the type of uses going in.
Yeah. And follow up, another question, if I may, the square footage of the caretakers facility, I thought it was an 800 square maximum for caretakers facilities, not 1,200 square feet. Or is that M1 to M2, or is that different?
Through your worship to Councillor Van Elfen, I'm just trying to look that up. I don't believe we do have a size limitation It just has to be an accessory to the existing use. I could be wrong. I'm just trying to check that top of my head here.
Thank you. And then one further question, if I may, the APC or the APC's comments, concerns of application of automotive sales use to the entire property, not enough parking, the property to accommodate this use. I totally disagree with that. For the fact of the matter is, if they stratify this 3 bays, let's say, and they're using 3 bays, I lease a bay, I could fix a car, park it out front, sell it, have another car in the shop, fixing that, sell it. But I think this is handcuffing that piece of property. Auto sales is not a bad word, in my opinion. I don't see why we would handcuff this property with that designation. I mean, I appreciate the applicants, willing to let that go, but I don't think it's right. I think, if it's zoned auto repair and auto sales or auto repair, if sales is allowed, I think, I think it should be allowed there personally.
Mr. Delwood.
Yeah, through your worship to Councilor Vanel, just to clarify, so automobile repair is a permitted use within the M1 zone, but automobile sales currently isn't.
Okay.
So the initial request, when we came in, they said the applicant, to their credit, they specifically wanted to accommodate their own business, which is motorcycle sales and rentals. We looked at it at the staff level and looked at what the best use would be to allow for that. And the only use we had within the zoning bylaw was automobile sales and rentals. And so when we brought it forward, that was the request that we brought forward to APC. And then when APC provided us comments, they said, well, the automobile sales, because it is a request over and above the M1 zoning, they had some concerns with, but they didn't have concerns specifically with moving their business for motorcycle sales and rentals. And that's primarily what the applicant's needs are. And so they were willing to make that change.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Betts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a question that's kind of based on the citing, trying to be considerate of the residential uses around there while still accommodating. I can definitely see the value of this building, of this new opportunity. And I would just like to have a discussion about the possibility of instead the building being sited facing south, so that instead of the neighbors having all of those bays and all of the parking, which would directly just impact their daily lives so very much, rather than it being faced the other way and the building shifting towards Jones Flat Road. Just, can you enlighten me discussion-wise if that's a possibility?
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry. Through your worship to Councilor Betts, anything is possible in terms of redesign. I do note that if you were to flip this around, this design of this building, you wouldn't be able to consider the Jones Flat Road side to be a rear yard. And as well, it couldn't be reduced down to 0 meters because it's not next to an industrial zone property. So we have these provision in the M1 zone that only when a property is bordering another industrial zone property, it can be reduced, that setback, either side or rear, down to 0 meters. To allow that building to be located right up to another industrial zone building. But if it was pushed north, it would be required to have a minimum setback of around probably, I think, 5 meters. I think off the top of my head, 5 meters from Jones Flat Road. So that you'd be losing that amount of space on the south side of the building for the parking areas and landscaping that type of thing. But, there's definitely different ways to design this thing. And this is definitely the time we'd like to hear council's feedback.
Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Worship. Brad, are the applicants still, is their intention to stratify the other 3 units? Or were they considering going to the rental on those?
Through your worship, to Councillor Patton, I believe their applicants' intentions are to stratify all 6 units and then retain ownership of 3.
I should add the applicants are in the gallery here, so if we wanted to ask any questions to them, we can.
Question was answered. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Barkwell.
And with all due respect to Councillor Betts' efforts to maybe think a little differently, think outside the box, whatever, I really actually think that this is the ideal orientation to maximize the use of this property, to have the 0 setback against the other property. I note that we did get a letter of concern from a neighbor concerned about the stratification, but I don't really understand that concern. I would think that if there's any issues, and I don't think they're seldom, that the fellow tenants and owners would probably deal with that person themselves before somebody who lived, a fair distance away. The only residences are close to this property is one that's kind of up on a hill to the east, and then another one that's tucked off in the corner. And it shouldn't be any surprise to them that this would eventually have some sort of industrial development on it, since it's the last remaining parcel in the industrial area, and the official community plan says we're aiming for industrial area.
Thank you. Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have to concur with my colleague, Councillor Barkwell. I like the orientation, and I got, just looking at the plan, and north is all orchard and will be, probably for eternity. It's all in the ALR, so that's not going to change. So it's not like you got direct neighbors across the street from you. It's all orchard, so it's not going to really affect the other positive thing here. And I appreciate the letters. I truly do. But let's remember that the biggest employer in that whole area, Aero Industries, the fiberglass manufacturer, is no longer there. So this is quite a nice attraction to that industrial park compared to what was there once upon a time. So, I mean, if anyone has any history in Summerland, you go up there, and all you'd smell is fiberglass resin 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and that is no longer there. So I think this is a great addition, personally. Thank you.
Okay, so would you like to bring a motion forward there? Maybe we could get on the screen. And this would be for going to public hearing, which we would hear from people if they have any further
Yep.
concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The zoning bylaw amendment 8307 Jones Flat Road bylaw number 2023-015 be read a first and second time, and that the public hearing be held on June 26, 2023 to receive public feedback on zoning bylaw amendment 8307 Jones Flat Road bylaw number 2023-015.
Very good. Second, Councillor Patton, any further discussion? Councillor Betts?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just thought I would bring up the question about the road, whether it would be on Industrial or Jones Flat Road. So I know that the neighbors had concerns that there was only, I believe, non-industrial uses currently situated on Jones Flat Road. I was just reading that. So I'm not sure if that's correct, but is there what's council's feeling on that? That it's fine? Like, are we just good with the address being Jones Flat Road as compared to industrial? Sure.
Councillor Barkwell?
Well, I'm trying to picture what this project will look like, and it seems to me it'd be look a lot like where Oki Tire is. Is that okay? Those bays there in the Bentley industrial area. Yeah. And I note that there's entrances off both roads. There's Jones Flat and Industrial Avenue. So with the 6 bays, I imagine the traffic will be pretty late. And you do have your choice of maybe they'll be going in one way and out the other or something.
Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you. Back in the day, Aero Industries was on Jones Flat Road and it was an industrial business there. It's no longer there. We gave them a variance, if I'm not mistaken, to allow that to go to a storage facilities for RVs, boats and what have you. So there has been industrial activity on Jones Flat Road in the past, and storage is another one, so I don't see an issue here at all.
Okay, anything further? I'll call the question. All in favor? None opposed, that carries. No bylaws for adoption. Business arising from committee of the whole and closed sessions. Corporate officer.
Thank you, Mayor Holmes. So there are 2 resolutions that were made by council and committee today, the committee of the whole, that just need to be reconfirmed, and they will come up on the screen in a second. So the first one is the resolution made about meeting with the UBCM or at UBCM with the provincial ministers on the screen. Here.
So we've got Ministry of Health for the primary care, municipal affairs for the rec center and development cost charges, transportation for Prairie Valley Road and Highway 97, and Ministry of Environment for the BC Parks, BC Hydro Energy for the redundancy of the power grid, Minister of Water, Lands and Resources for the watershed management, Ministry of Housing for continued funding for affordable housing, and Ministry of Agriculture for update on the food hub. That's quite a lot. Yep. So moved. Second, Councillor Patton. We beat this around the bush quite a bit this morning, but Councillor Barkwell, you want to get your 2 cents worth.
I was just thinking, what was the thoughts on, say, the Ministry of Transportation? Normally we call these ministry meetings, but I don't know if these issues we would want to meet with the minister necessarily. Are we aiming for a staff person that might have some more direct involvement in our issues than the minister?
We did discuss that, and we did discuss meeting up staff thing, and yeah, maybe the Ministry of Transport one, since we've already met the minister on this, it might be a better one. I don't know. The minister, what often happens is some of these things where the minister will say, well, I've already met you this, go see our staff, so I don't know. I was wondering if for the Trail of the Okanogans one, we should probably meet both the BC Parks and the Ministry of Transportation on that one. No, because at request, we'll throw that in with the Ministry of Transportation as well, since they would probably be the ones end up paying for this thing. So, Councillor Tran.
We put in requests. Can we do both staff and the ministry to kind of cover our bases? So if we don't get one, we might get the other. Okay. To be honest, over the years, I've found meeting with staff and the ministers equally beneficial. Like you get different things out of each one. So yeah, if we just cover the bases on both staff and ministries, hopefully we'll get at least most of these.
Okay, so motion's on the floor. Did anybody second that? Yeah, you seconded it already. Yeah, okay, so that's been second. Any further discussion? No, call the question. All in favor? None opposed, that carries. Corporate officer.
Thanks, Mayor Holmes. And the second being related to the proposed recreation center funding strategy. So again, council and committee passed the following resolution that's on the screen.
Okay. Someone want to bring that forward? Councilor Trainer, second, Councilor Betts. Councilor Barkwell, do you have any quote? Anything to contribute? Again, we discussed this morning in committee of the whole, and this is just coming forward to regular council. No further discussion. I'll call the question. All in favor? Sorry, I didn't see that. All in favor? So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5. Any opposed? Councillor Van Elfen opposed. That carries. Anything else? That's it. Okay. Moving on to notices of motion. Does anybody have a notice of motion? No. Items removed from consent agenda, item 4.3, and that's the activities report, development services. Councillor Barkwell, was there anything particularly you wanted?
Yes, I thought I saw on the list the Landry Crescent dock application is back on the table, so to speak. Is that, which one is that there? Anyhow, when do we see that? Because it wasn't so good last time when we had this application for the huge dock at the Oasis, and agendas came out on Wednesday and the meeting was on Monday. And, there's 30 things on the list here and probably only 1 or 2 the public has an interest in. And I want to make sure that the ones or 2 that the public has an interest in, that they also have an awareness of. So when do we think we might see that?
Mr. Delvin?
Yeah, through your worship to Councillor Barkwell. The application was put on hold by the applicant last July. So it's been about a year since that we've been having this application on hold for, yes, a new fairly large shared dock to be constructed in front of the new Landry Crescent development in Trail Creek. So our next steps before it does come to council will be most likely having another public information meeting. We did already have one for this one, but we probably wanted to do it again, given the time period that's occurred. And then followed from that, another meeting from the Advisory Planning Commission as well to present the rezoning request. It did ultimately get to the APC in that July. I think it was their July meeting, and then after that discussion with the APC, it was put on hold by the applicant at that point in time. So yeah, it'll be something that we'll want to bring forward to council, but the public will be most likely made aware of it through the public information meeting, advertisement, as well as notifying adjacent landowners, and then further to that to the Advisory Planning Commission before it comes to council.
That's good. Councillor Trainer.
When you say public meeting, do you mean one that the developer hosts? Okay, so is it their responsibility then to advertise that?
Yeah, through your worship to Councillor Trainer, that's correct. Yeah, as part of our development application procedures bylaw, the developer is required to host their own public information meeting. We have requirements in there as to what they have to do, and they have to advertise in the paper for a minimum of 3 weeks. And we provide them an ad as well, a template, and then also normally a sign to be placed on the property that is also specified. And then as well as adjacent landowner letters, sorry, I should mention, being provided as well to people that are interested.
Okay, and adjacent landowners, how far does that stretch?
Our bylaw currently states 60 meters.
Okay, so that's not gonna capture anyone. It's not, it's gonna capture the trailer or the trailer park, and then that's it.
Yeah, and I guess that's the intention of the public ad in the newspaper is to capture those, anyone else that might be of interest. And as well as the sign on the property, I guess, if people do drive by that area. We could look at trying to boost. I'm sure the developer would be wanting to find alternative ways to get the word out on this as well, through their own website, for example, and because they have a project website for their development and other items we can probably point to. If council wants.
Just one more quick comment. I think it's really important that we do advertise that because the James and Mary Gartrell Trail runs through there. So it's not like it's a private development with a dock directly there. Like there's this public access between, so it does affect all the people that would use that trail. I'm not saying for or against or anything. I'm just saying it affects people. So I think we need to make sure that everybody knows about it so they can give their feedback.
Yeah, that's not our meeting.
No, I know.
So just a second, Councillor Patton. Councillor Van Alphen first.
Just a question through to our planner. I don't know if I'm reading this correctly. Banks Crescent, single family, 7 units, townhouse, 97 units. Internal, external referrals, district retained consulting firm for support, scoping engagement plan. Can you enlighten me?
Sure. Yep. Good eye, Councillor. We have a new application for the Banks Crescent property coming in. Has been submitted. We're currently reviewing it, getting it out for internal, external comments right now. And this is one we potentially might want to have some consulting support with, given the amount of engagement that occurred last time around. It's a fairly substantial proposal for our community still, even though it's much less density than the previous proposal. For that reason, the applicant actually has agreed to provide us reimbursement of our costs for any consulting support.
Councillor Patton.
That's okay, Your Worship. My question's been answered.
Sorry, while we're asking, so the one on Julia Street, revised plans being submitted. That's the hotel. Yeah. So does that mean they're going to be holding another public information meeting as well? How major are the revisions, I guess?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I haven't got the revised plans yet. I know they are working on that currently. It really depends on what gets resubmitted back to us. I think if there's substantial changes from what was initially envisioned, then yeah, I think we would recommend, and they would probably agree to having another public information session. I think actually from what I hear from their applicant is they are trying to address the public's concerns that they heard from the first meeting, some concerns with parking and also density and those are there. And they've got some perhaps ways around that, but I don't know for sure till the plans are submitted.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Barkwell.
Is there anything you can update us with progress on the old police station site?
Yeah, through your worship to Councillor Barkwell, that's kind of still proceeding with getting their building permit details configured for ultimately issuance. This was a level 2/3, could maybe level 2 scope of building inspection review. So we were using at the time our contracted service with the city of Penticton for review of this building permit and some back and forth with the applicant, but I think it's pretty close to being issued in the fairly next few months. I would say there's still some servicing requirements outstanding for the road upgrades required.
Okay, we're good. So it's quite the list. That's lots in the pipeline. So we'll need a motion to receive this report. Councillor Van Elfen, Councillor Betts, all in favor, and that carries. Council reports. Anybody have a report? Councillor Park, will you tell us what FCM?
Well, you gave a very good report earlier, Your Worship, but it's a lot like UBCM. You know, you go in there in the morning and then at the end of the day, you go, wow, where did the day go? You meet a lot of people, you talk, go to a lot of sessions. Interesting to have met other British Columbians and talk about this issue that you talked about this morning with the getting together with people from other communities that have the same concerns as us on this agricultural land that doesn't, you know, it's provincial priority, but the residents of Summerland are paying for it. And so that, yeah, it was not overwhelming, but it was a lot. Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Okay. Then we'll move on to the public comment period. Anybody? Mr. Bessler.
Hi, Council. Brad Besler. First, I'd like to correct something that Graham Stat said earlier. Graham, you said the 4-day work week would lead to extended hours. It's actually going from 37.5 per week to 35. So that's reduced hours. And you know that. Next, I'd like to comment on some documents that were recently disclosed through Freedom of Information. One was an email from a concerned resident who emailed all the council. And he expressed concern about the cost overruns with the solar project. And we all know the solar project went over budget. Aaron Trainor's first reaction was to email multiple people mocking this longtime resident because of a few spelling mistakes. I'm sure a lot of you have read that email, and I think we can all agree that was very unprofessional. So as your designated deputy mayor, I'm just wondering, would you like to address your email about Orv Robson?
Are you finished?
No.
Okay, carry on.
Okay, and other documents that were recently disclosed showed that Aaron Trainor filed a bylaw complaint about a Summerland resident this year, saying that the resident's dog was being used as a weapon against her and that it threatened people's lives. But then a dog control report the next day or shortly after, showed that Aaron Trainor admitted the dog didn't growl, bark, show its teeth, nothing. The dog was on the resident's property. So again, I'm just wondering if Aaron Trainor would like to address those documents.
You have 15 seconds left if you'd like to carry on.
I guess not. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Don't see any. If we could have a motion to adjourn, please. Councillor Van Elfen, Councillor Barkwell, all in favor, and that carries.